So we are now back. I am Amanda with This Week in Cloud Computing, in case you forgot.
Yes, you're still here.
Because some people are joining us now.
And you're still you.
And I'm still me. And we have Manish Kalia, founder and VP of Marketing at Teneros, on the line. I hope. Are you still there, Manish?
Yes, I'm here.
And we are going to be talking about Social Sentry. Now, before, I would like to at least mention that Manish pioneered the development and the launch of the first appliance-based high-availability platform for Microsoft messaging infrastructure. Is that a mouthful? Yes.
I was like, what's the middle part again?
I know, the messaging, Microsoft, lots of Microsoft.
The high-availability platform for messaging that's an appliance, I think.
Yes.
I think I got it. Okay. So it's hardware.
So yes, I wanted to throw out there what you've done in the past, Manish, with your background. But let's jump. I want to jump into this demo of Social Sentry because this is this can be a little bit controversial.
Controversial
to some extent. But in a good way, though. I think it's important. So Social Sentry was a software as a service application that was launched a demo. And it looks at employees' public communications to make sure they're not disseminating sensitive corporate information. So it's really good for public companies that don't want to put financial information out there or have it leaked out there.
Right.
So you've got corporations that are monitoring employee communication anyway.
Right.
And so, Social Sentry is a way to tap into the social networking portion of that right now, Twitter and Facebook, and probably extending out. Am I right, Manish? Do you have other things beyond those two right now?
We target Facebook and Twitter right now, and because those are definitely two of the most prominent social networks being used today. But we are planning to add support for additional networks, including LinkedIn and YouTube.
Sure. And it's keyword based, correct?
Absolutely, and the key part here is, what we have seen in the last 12 to 18 months is a lot of companies have been impacted by events where, an employee accidentally or maliciously leaks either sensitive corporate information or damages the brand. And once again, we are talking more about public comments made by employees, which are accessible by everyone, not so their private communication.
Exactly.
So, that is the threat which companies are beginning to see, and this really helps them alleviate that.
Mm-hmm. So it's not just financial information, it's also things like movie titles and stuff, right?
Absolutely. See, what we've seen is, whether you take the recent event where Domino's had an employee upload a video which was damaging to the brand, or, the recent events at British Airways, Vodafone, it can be anything as an employee disclosing financial information, telling about an upcoming movie or a product which is about to launch, or, saying bad things about the brand or the customer.
Okay. Well, why don't we jump into a little bit of a demo here? I'd like to see on screen kind of how Social Sentry works.
Sure, absolutely. So it's a pretty simple product to deploy and install. As you can see, it's a software as a service offering, so it's fairly easy to use. You can log into the web interface from pretty much anywhere. What it lets you do is two or three key things. One is it lets you discover your employees on Facebook and Twitter. So your employees may be using their personal aliases or a personal name, and it lets you find those employees and track them. Once you have discovered your employees, what it lets you do is create rules for monitoring different aspects of things such as brand, or, leakage of financial information, anything which you want to monitor your employees' public communication on the social networks, you can create rules. And the creation of rules is pretty straightforward. And the last part really there is alerts. So if one of your employees were to post something which would be in violation of a rule, you would get alerted with it pretty fast so that you can react to it.
Now, I think an important point to make with this is that, companies are monitoring employees', public communication anyway.
Yeah.
So this is a good way of just automating that process.
Absolutely. And, as we all know, if you are publicly making comments about a brand or about, disclosing some information, so there's always a responsibility which comes along with making public disclosures. And if a company can be damaged for millions of dollars from those comments, they definitely, will try to monitor it. And as you already said, they're already doing a lot of monitoring. So it's not like they cannot get to this information. This tool just helps them automate it and discover it. one of the key parts of this tool is that it lets you monitor your employee comments even when they're occurring from anywhere, whether it's their phone, their workplace, or their home computers.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think this is actually not that controversial in my opinion, because it's not like you're monitoring their email.
Right.
I think there is some debate.
Yeah.
And I'm a big privacy person myself. I'm very high in privacy. This doesn't freak me out at all. This is I have gone and put these comments out on the public internet, in Twitter, Facebook, etc. I'm responsible for them, and I've broadcast them. It's not like it's privileged communication between me and another person.
Exactly.
This is broadcasts that you're doing on these networks. So I actually think this is completely non-controversial.
Yeah. Well, I think it's more, from what I've heard, just in general from the community, it's less about privacy and more, well, that's my personal account that I use for X, Y, and Z. But I think the response then is when you sign up as an employee of a company, there are policies.
If you sign a non-disclosure agreement with a company, then even in your personal communications, that NDA applies.
Exactly.
So.
Right, and the other point to keep in mind is, I mean, if you're using your personal account just for your personal communication with your friends and your colleagues, I mean, that's not being monitored. That's completely off the radar.
Right.
But if you're using that personal account to make statements on the internet, then, there's a certain responsibility. I mean, if an employee goes out and discloses the financial results for a company before they are out, I mean, there's obviously an element of unethical practices going on there.
Yeah.
Now, are you selling this into more of the HR people, the marketing people, both? I mean, who's your target with it?
That's a great question. We actually finding a variety of targets. So, one target is obviously our compliance and information security teams within the organization, because they're usually responsible for finding if any information gets leaked or any damage is happening. The second area is HR and marketing, where they're worried either about the brand or they're worried about, some negative impact from customers, because we have had incidents where recent incident where British Airways had some of its employees saying inappropriate things about customers on publicly. So marketing and HR are definitely also interested from that aspect.
Okay. Well, is there anything else that you would like to show us here in the demo on screen?
This is a fairly easy product to kind of walk through, and as I was mentioning, I'll quickly walk through how you would install it and how you would use it in like a minute.
Sure.
And so when you want to deploy the solution, it's as simple as going in and providing some basic information about your network so that our cloud-based solution can monitor your employee communication. We require you to make a few basic changes on your side, which essentially allows us to start detecting your accounts for Twitter and Facebook, and you can even add new accounts here. So if you have a specific account which you would like to monitor, you can definitely add those accounts here. Once those accounts are added, it's really up to you to go and change your rules, modify your rules, and create different types of criteria which you're looking to monitor. For example, you can select the network you want to monitor. You can also select some predefined templates, like if an employee is leaking out credit card numbers, social security numbers, or
passwords,
any type of information.
Very interesting. And how much does this cost per employee?
It's actually a very reasonable pricing model. It's based on per monitored account, and it's a monthly fee. So it can be as low as $2 a month per employee. It really depends upon the scale of the deployment and other parameters. But yeah, it's pretty affordable for a business.
Yeah.
For SMB, they can really get a very affordable protection.
Sure.
Another quick question. So I know on Facebook I can set my account so that only my friends can view it, or certain portions of it, or my wall or whatever. And I would imagine that you probably can't scan those accounts. Is that correct?
So as I mentioned, our objective is to help companies protect them from any public disclosures which are impacting their brand. So if you're posting a message only to your friends, we're not scanning that.
Yeah.
But if you're posting messages which are accessible by everyone, they are getting monitored.
Yeah, and actually people who are that stupid anyway usually don't set their Facebook accounts to be private. So.
And it's also triggered by certain keywords, so it's not like they're actively monitoring.
If you're stupid enough to disclose corporate information, you're probably not smart enough to set your Facebook account correctly.
And, this is really one of those cases where a lot of times we see this happening accidentally. Where an employee was tweeting something or writing something on Facebook, not realizing that it can go viral.
That old DM that's not really a DM.
Exactly.
You didn't quite put that right.
Yeah. Wasn't a direct message. Well, thank you so much, Manish. Is there anything else that you would like to add before we wrap up?
Well, the only thing I would say is, from our side, we're receiving a lot of interest in the product and a lot of traction, and we're going to be adding newer capabilities around the various social networks. One thing which was unique to this product is that it lets you, track to a specific employee account what's being said, which is critical if the company wants to mitigate against damage, because most of the internet monitoring solutions are very generic and they do not give you any employee-level intelligence.
All right. Well, thank you so much for your time today, Manish. We have Manish Kalia with Teneros and Social Sentry is the name of the product.
Thanks a lot.